retrospective vaporware review. This is vaporware from last year and whether or not it came back this year. Was it or was it not vaporware? We will find out. I already know at least two that at least showed up again. I'm excited. I want to know what hasn't gotten coverage.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I am just back from SHOT Show 2026, where there was some fairly cool stuff. There's never a ton of historical material at SHOT Show, but there's always at least a little bit of relevant, interesting things. And so I filmed a number of shorts videos on some of the cool, interesting stuff that I saw. You may have seen those videos over the last couple of days.
I did.
But that made me
I saw
think about
our boy Charles with the Type 100.
I did the same thing last year, and it would be worth doing a bit of a follow-up on where all of those things from last year actually are today. How many of these things are vaporware that disappeared without a trace, and how many of them made progress, and how many of them are actually completed and available on the market now? So let's dig into the coverage from SHOT Show 2025 last year. In no particular order, I have first up the Primary Arms HTX-1.
Oh, no.
This is a red dot sight that Primary Arms was getting a lot of attention for. It was going to be an all made in the United States red dot sight, which is a lot more of a difficult proposition than one might expect it to be. And lo and behold,
most optics are Chinesium.
The sights are in a fair amount of demand, and they're still fairly difficult to get a hold of because they keep selling out as fast as they're released. Production is not meeting demand, but they're out there, they're manufactured. I have not done any video on them myself, but Hop did a video on the HTX-1 that was pretty good, so I will link to that in the description text below. Check it out if you're interested in that particular red dot, which is now on the market.
The American-made red dot is
a little bit scarce. Next up, we have, I think, a classic example of the sort of thing that a lot of people assume will be vaporware, and that was the Allen & Kaufman AKB-23. This was a conversion of a Brownell's BRN 180 upper into an L85 bullpup look-alike, and lo and behold, those
that one came
are
true.
Available
that was
on the
real.
market. I believe at this moment they're in their third batch of them, but they're actually out there.
Neat. I would like to have one of these because I for sure cannot afford the new L85 clone made by the very British sounding company that I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. But that thing is like $12,000 and this is like $1,200. It's a little bit of a price difference.
It didn't turn into vaporware, and I have a video on this particular one, which I will also link in the description text below. So good on them. They're in production and making them, and I think they're on their way to doing more interesting and cool different variations on them as well. This certainly would not be a complete video if I didn't talk about 9x39 millimeter guns.
Oh no.
Last year I did a video, sort of extended, long video on...
Yeah, Ian absolutely just roasted this guy and his janky company showing this gun. Oh my goodness. Guy got wrecked. This gun is just vaporware.
BSD Fabrication and Works project to recreate the AS Val or VSS Vintorez. That video blew up, you could say. They were promising to have guns available for sale by Q4 of last year. They weren't going to do pre-orders. Like they talked a pretty big game.
I don't think they even showed up to SHOT Show this year.
They were not at SHOT Show this year.
Oh, the project still exists?
They were displaying at the B&T booth because B&T...
I will say, I am surprised that that project still exists, which means there's not no hope for them, which is good. As funny as it was that they got roasted by Ian last year, I was still hoping that they would come through because I do want a VSS.
Are very cool, nice people who didn't have a full understanding of that project, but had been contracted to make a prototype suppressor for it, which they did, and then they offered the guys a gun worth of shelf space to display. I think they probably regret that. B&T was not involved in that project to any formal extent beyond being paid to make a suppressor for the thing.
Yeah, B&T
At any rate,
does a really good job of supporting small creations.
The VSD, Fabrication and Works project, does technically continue today. They have obviously, well, they haven't actually produced any guns. They have run into difficulties manufacturing VSS type internals and decided to replace the action of the guns with all AR-15 internal components. So a bit.
I am now no longer interested. I don't care. If I want an integrally suppressed AR-15, I can do that whenever I want to. Replacing all the parts with AR-15 parts, instant project killer for me. I no longer care at all, which is too bad, because I really would like a VSS.
Bit less, actually quite a lot less of a clone than the guns were originally intended to be. They have some posts from time to time about various parts manufactured. They do not appear to have come up with reliable stamping technology at this point. They're posting some pictures. They have posted some pictures of top covers that appear
stamping
to be
is a lost art,
I think, although they don't specify. Yeah, and they were not at SHOT Show this year. However, there was
they were scared
a totally
they were going to get roasted by Ian again.
Called Roswell Rifle Works that is also working on a.
I want one of these so bad. These are going to be expensive, like $3,500, and I need it. I need this so bad. SR3M.
They are making the SR3M. As a little bit of background here, all of these guns, the AS Val, the VSS Vintorez, the SR3, and the SR3M, are all fundamentally the same mechanical system that has been iterated, or was iterated, by the Soviets, and then later the Russians several times. When those guns were iterated, the new models were never made backwards compatible with the previous ones because they didn't really need to be. And so there
backwards
are like
compatibility.
4 different versions
Russia doesn't
of this
need that.
gun with different configurations that are not parts interchangeable, the originals. And BSD talked about recreating some of the early ones. Roswell Rifle Works is recreating one of the very last ones, the SR3M. They appear to be doing a pretty darn good job of it, and they are only going to be making it in 9x39 millimeter. They're producing their own new magazines. Challenging as that may be, they do appear to have some prototype magazines that are working fairly well. What makes me optimistic about this project in part is that Roswell is actually a company with a lot of experience with 9x39.
Roswell is already
involved in that
an established
years
manufacturing
ago
company.
when there was first importation of Russian Wolf 9x39 ammo. When that importation dried up, Roswell's sister company got involved in actually manufacturing the ammunition here in the US. So they have Starline making the brass for it. They produce the ammo right now, and for years now, they've been making basically small custom one-off projects of
I believe that this one
AR-15 and
is not going to end up being lost vaporware.
9x39 millimeter guns. And there are a bunch of them out there. They have a good reputation. They have then decided to expand into making a clone of the original Russian 9x39 millimeter system. So they had a complete working gun there, all manufactured by them and all looked pretty good. They're going to be doing this as both a factory SBR version, because the Russian SR3M actually has a folding vertical grip in its handguard, which,
if I get one, it will be the factory SBR.
That would turn it into any other weapon under US NFA law. So they will also be making a pistol version with a slightly different handguard that doesn't have the vertical grip and has
the pistol version is cringe.
Arm brace on it
instead
of a true folding stock. Their price points appear to be pretty reasonable. They're talking about like $3,500 to $4,500 for the SBR.
It's so expensive.
Or so less than
I want it
for the pistols. We will see if they are back next year, but things look pretty positive on it. And again, I'm pretty excited for it. I didn't see any huge red flags on that project, unlike the BSD project, which did have a great number of red flags associated with it. Interestingly, I know people are going to ask about...
I definitely trust Ian when he says whether there are or aren't red flags for a new project, because he's been right every time. So I trust him for sure.
Stamping and top covers with Roswell. Roswell recognizes the difficulty and the complexity of stamping and the expense of creating a stamping die for top covers, which is somewhere in the order of $500,000.
Oh my! Oh, $500,000.
Which is not
I knew it was expensive. I didn't think it was that bad.
Expecting to produce. So instead, they are actually milling top covers from billet. And they had one there, actually two there, really quite impressive parts. Like, they recognize that on a per part basis, that's an extremely expensive way to do it, but for a low production volume, that is the best way to do it. So anyway,
maybe they can go into high production.
That was a cool one
later.
Next up, we have the Insight Armory SVD Dragunov. This was supposed to be a clone of the Dragunov being made in Texas. They had a booth last year at SHOT Show. They had an in the white prototype, mostly complete.
I did not see any coverage of this one this year.
Iterations on things like receivers to show some of the work in progress. It looked like they were doing a pretty good job. It looked like they'd invested quite a lot into the project. No booth at SHOT Show.
Didn't the guy who owned that project die? Don't quote me on this, but I think the guy doing the project died, which makes it really hard to complete the project.
So this year, I took a look at their website, which has all been replaced by a single placeholder page that says that the shop is shut down pending a relocation, which makes me suspect that that project is dead. They did not take pre-orders. No one's out money, except for the guys at Insight Armory, who do appear to have invested quite a lot of money into that project as
don't quote
last year's SHOT Show.
Don't quote me on that one.
It's unfortunate. That had all the appearance of a pretty cool product if they were able to make it work. It shouldn't be hugely surprising that some of these projects don't come all the way to fruition. Building a reproduction firearm like that, especially a stamped receiver one, is a really daunting project. It takes a lot of capital investment, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of work, and it's unfortunate when they fail. And to be clear, I don't know for sure that this project is dead, but I couldn't find any talk about it over the past year.
The project is dead, but the owner might be.
Appears to be defunct. So I'm not optimistic that we will hear from those guys again. But of course, if you know something more about that, please feel free to mention it in the comments or email me directly. It would be really cool if it was still up and running, but I'm not holding my breath. An interesting one here is the Angstad Arms Profit system. This is something that they had come up with last year at SHOT Show as
another
sort of a clever way to get
there were so many suppressors at SHOT Show this year. It was exhausting.
With just a single tax stamp. It was a ported barrel that you had a nested suppressor on. The idea was you could essentially get the overall length of a short-barreled rifle with a suppressor while having technically, legally, a full 16-inch barrel so that you only had to pay one tax stamp on the suppressor. There are some other neat benefits.
The Keltec Sub 2000 does something kind of similar to that with their Sub CQB. That one, I believe, it has like some weird barrel sleeve that's 16 inches that is legally classified as the barrel, but it's just like an internal tube of the suppressor. I don't know exactly how it works, but apparently that's a one stamp gun.
To it, it was kind of a clever system. Angstad Arms is still very much in business, and they're doing a whole lot of suppressors, especially integrally suppressed 22s, which are pretty cool. The Profit system has essentially been shelved for lack of relevance. Now that there is, now that the tax on short-barreled rifles and suppressors has been dropped to $0, there's really not much motivation to have a specialized system just to avoid the tax stamp.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well,
that makes
the stamp
sense.
Exists, but the tax is
unfortunate that they invested in that.
They do still have it. They may bring it back, apparently, because there are a few other side benefits to it, or they may iterate something similar, but not Vaporware. That's a product that was overtaken by legal practical realities and is no longer relevant or really desirable. One of the things that I was really excited to take a look at this year at SHOT Show was
our boy Charles. I'm on the pre-order for this one. By the way, I don't know if I've said that enough times. I'm so excited.
Gearhead Guns Type 100 submachine gun clone. It is a closed bolt semi-automatic look-alike of a Japanese World War II Type 100 submachine gun, being made in 9mm Parabellum, using PPS 43 magazines instead of dealing with 8mm Nambu. It's a project from a one-man operation. Very cool guy named Charles. Last year, he had ideas and optimism and ambition and an in the white, partially made, barreled action prototype. This year, he was there again, and he had a complete functioning gun, and is cutting parts on his first batch of production guns.
It's mine. One of those is going to be mine, chat.
Which has already sold out.
It's me. I'm on the pre-order.
Affordable, actually very affordable for what he's doing.
It is and wildly affordable.
That project appears to be well on its way to completion. You know, it's never too early for something to go wrong, but I'm very optimistic that we will see him back again next year with dozens, if not hundreds, of production guns out the door, and maybe some cool new project that he's going to take on next. So that was
if he's going according to plan, and then by end of February, early March, he's already going to have dozens, because according to the last update, that's when pre-orders are shipping.
A really exciting one. I did a short on it. I look forward to getting one of the guns when his first batch is complete, and when I do, I will be doing a full video for you guys about it. So,
Gabagool, Insight Firearms Pennsylvania owner died. Insight Armory Texas should still be kicking. Okay, so I was kind of right. There was some Insight Firearms guy who kicked the bucket, but is not the Insight Armory Texas guy. So there we go. Let's clear that up from earlier.
That's one of those cool stories. That's a gun that I think a lot of people assumed was going to be vaporware, never to be seen again. And lo and behold, there he was with lots of progress and right on track to having it complete and on the market. Another one of the really exciting things from last year was SNT Motive, or SNT Defense, out of South Korea.
This one as well.
Having very grandiose sounding plans to introduce a whole swath of South Korean firearms onto the U.S. market, building a manufacturing facility here in the U.S., and
they're still working on it.
Some classic pieces like the Daewoo K2 and the Daewoo K1A1, in addition to the current modernized versions of those guns that the South Korean military still uses to some extent today. A lot of us were very excited about that. Again, this was a company that seemed to have some really significant plans, and we haven't really heard anything from them since, but they
released
back
one
at SHOT
update
Show. They
in
actually
July.
had a bigger booth this year than they did last year, and they apologized for the delays. Apparently, they ran into both some issues with ATF approvals, which is not hugely surprising, as well as actually more hurdles with South Korean export controls than they were expecting.
They ran into legal issues in both South Korea and the United States, which is
military,
awful.
And apparently they're having more
company.
trouble, or not trouble, but it's taking them longer to get all of the export approvals for those things than they anticipated. So they are still working on a U.S. manufacturing facility, and they are adamant that those guns will be available this year. Apparently DP-51 pistols will be the first thing coming, which should apparently be around in just a couple of months, with K1 and K2 rifles by the end of this year.
The rifles are cooler, though.
So that was a little relieved to see them there again. I was really pretty excited about that project, and it's nice that it appears to be still on track, although we don't actually have anything in hand to show for it yet. I mean,
there was also a whole lot of hype in the coverage of SHOT Show about other things that they had, particularly the K7 and the STRM21, STRSM21, one of those. They're 9mm carbines. Big fan of those ones.
They had a whole bunch of guns there, but these are all guns that are being made in South Korea already. What we're excited to have happen is to have them released on the U.S. semi-auto commercial market. Last year, there was a really cool collaborative project between PSA's H&R branch, Harrington and Richardson.
Oh, is this the T48?
They bought up
the
trademark for Harrington and Richardson, which went bankrupt several decades ago. And they've been using that trademark to make reproduction H&R M16 variants, and it's a really cool thing that PSA is doing on the historical side of firearms. Well, they collaborated, they hooked up with DS DSA, to make a clone of the T48 American-made FAL, which was made by H&R. So that was something that was really neat.
Have
DSA
not
was
heard
making
a price on this
of
one yet.
Special custom parts to match what the
I know it's going to be wildly expensive, but has there been a price on this one?
Had. So different dust covers, stripper clip capabilities, different charging handle, folding winter trigger guards. it's not 100% perfect clone, but it's like an 80 or 90% clone of a gun that we just won't ever get in the US because they were all machine guns. There were a limited number of them. They were just troop trials guns. That was pretty exciting. That project is also still really cool. Ongoing. Obviously, both companies were at SHOT Show this year. They both had, I think, probably the same display guns that they had last year. I talked to DSA about it, and apparently some of the production process, in particular the wood elements, ended up taking them a lot longer than they anticipated. They had to find some different suppliers.
They're having trouble with their wood. It's okay.
And they didn't give me a specific timetable, but apparently all that stuff is well into production and should be released sometime this year. So that'll be a cool one to see. That's another one where I'm definitely going to get my hands on one of the guns and do a full video for you guys on them when they're available. All right, the last thing that I have to cover from last year would be the Aimpoint Koa. I won't go into all the details of the Koa. I had a full video that I produced when Aimpoint introduced that sight. I'll link to that in the description text below. I really like the Koa. A lot of people were very skeptical about it because it is a completely proprietary mounting system. It is engineering-wise,
this is the one they had on that
very good mounting system. It is better than basically anything else out there on the market, but it is not compatible with anything else out there on the market. And the way Aimpoint chose to introduce this was to give Glock a 1-year exclusivity to the system, both the optic and the mounting system. That exclusivity
Glock has not capitalized on that at all.
Aimpoint has been working with other companies to help them develop the cut for the new sight. And there were half a dozen or so different companies, large and small, at SHOT Show this year that had it. Smith & Wesson had it. Laugo had it. Did I see
Laugo?
Springfield had it on Echelon, as well as some of their 1911s.
I got some Gucci companies in there.
But there were a number of other companies that also had it. Aimpoint tells me there's something like 25 or 30 companies that have or are working on adapting the A-cut and the Aimpoint Koa to their handguns. So the Koa has been difficult to acquire ever since it was introduced. The demand
didn't make very many of them.
Outstripped Aimpoint's production capacity. Aimpoint is actively building up their production capacity. They told me some numbers of what they plan to have for production, and they're mind-boggling to me, like an incredibly high number of these things, because they are proving to be very, very popular. They're largely automated assembly facility for them, so the cost for the Koa is significantly lower than you would expect for most Aimpoint sights without having any sacrifice.
That was my concern. So my concern is the cost of it.
Have a Koa myself at this point that will be going on a Laugo Remus, which is a super cool thing, which also came out this year.
Okay, stop flexing on me.
Talk about them from SHOT Show last year, so I will leave that to a full video.
They're very expensive.
When that pistol arrives. Whew. Anyway, that was SHOT Show this year. I did some videos on some potential vaporware from SHOT Show this year, so we'll take a look in a year back at those and see which of them succeeded and which succeeded, which failed, and which are still in progress a year from now. Hopefully, by next year's SHOT Show, we will at least have some cool South Korean guns, as well as some Type 100 Nambu PCC submachine guns, semi-autos.
I'm excited for those ones, because I already am on the pre-order.
Enjoyed this.
I don't know if I said that.
Not everything at SHOT Show is actually vaporware. I was actually kind of surprised, looking back at this, how many of these products are successful and on the market. There are only a couple of them that actually fizzled out completely over the last year. So anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for full videos on the cool stuff that's coming.
When you see a flat piece of paper, you can understand how to make a template and fold it.
Oh no. Oh no, this was bad. That was bad. That was yeah, well, other than the VSS guy who he presented the gun really well until Ian started asking real questions, and then he just kind of sputtered out. I am very excited for all of the definitely not vaporware that has come from SHOT Show this year. It's going to be fantastic.